For the love of football, welcome to week one, or the recap of week one. Welcome to the Unhinged podcast. We're not going to get really unhinged today. We might, maybe on a certain team in Texas,
Oh,
or
I
a certain,
will.
or a certain new name in the XFL for a team in Tampa. But I think it's time to give teams nicknames until they earn their right to be called what they are. So, with week one coming to an end, and welcome to another episode of the Unhinged Podcast. I am your host, Jay Dash, also known as Jim Rie, and my co host.
I am your part man, part machine, all podcasting partner, the wrestling movie guy, aka Carlos. What's up, guys? Hope you all had an excellent weekend. I know that I did. I'm ready to get unhinged. Let's do this thing. Let's talk some real, live, actual, in your face XFL football. It's finally here, y'all.
You're energized.
Woo.
Okay. Well, I would really be wishing I was on an airplane flying south right now, coming back to Jacksonville, but unfortunately, I'm here. But I did get a chance to watch all four games of the XFL. And let's just say that they knocked it out of the park instantly. And also, let's just say that if you're still a fan of the original XFL, remember to visit 503sports.com for your retro XFL gear. Also, on checkout, put promotion code UNHINGED to save 10%. Um, I hear that, let's just say this: ABC, ESPN, Fox, congratulations. You guys put on a product. You're professional. You treated this league exactly how it should be treated. And you put a new image on a league that thousands, maybe millions of other Americans thought this was going to be what the original XFL was. The Defenders and the Dragons threw whatever the XFL in 2001 had in the trash. It buried it. It
No
ended.
offense to He Hate Me and Tommy and all the boys. We still love y'all.
Not to the players that actually got into the NFL or got out of the XFL because the XFL made them, rejuvenized their careers, but talking about the locker rooms with the cheerleaders, the stupid broadcaster wars between them and the coaches, um, and bad football. People don't remember back in 2001. Yes, we did have Tommy Maddox, we did have Casey Weldon, and we did have Rod Smart, and we did have Chris Avery, but
John Avery.
or John Avery, excuse me.
You good?
But week one in 2001's XFL was god awful. Come looking at all the YouTube clips now from back in the day. It was god awful. The football sucked. This football, the first day of the XFL, woo, woo, woo. I thought the DC game was awesome, and then what was saw down in Houston, jeez. Um, but then Sunday it came, and we have a Jameis Winston spotting in New York. We also had the Cowboys sighting down in Dallas. Um,
Boo.
the reason why I said the Cowboys sighting down in Dallas, so we'll get to there. It's just comparing or telling you the fans out there that what the Renegades played like the Cowboys, overhyped all off season to just do this, not show up. But
But there were good reasons why that happened, and we will get to that.
yeah, but what is my first initial reaction of the XFL? 2 years of promoting this league, 2 years of working with some great individuals in this industry and XFLnewsroom.com. When it happened and watched the game, the kickoffs were a little weird, but damn it, those kickoffs were a lot better than what they did in the AEF. The fans in DC were loud from the TV perspective. We did have a person that was live there. He will talk about it when it's his turn. the fans in Houston were crazy. I could I could tell New York wanted to get into it, but didn't seem like it was a type of game because they basically controlled it throughout the whole entire game. And we didn't know about the crowd noise and the crowd effects in Dallas because St. Louis pretty much kept them out of the game. But one thing in my first impression of the XFL this time around, better football. These guys are they're much more prepared. Yes, there were a lot of sloppy plays and a lot of disorganization between the refs and the coaches, but that happens with the first week of the season. But if you compared it to the 2001 XFL season, you can compare it to the Georgia Dome. The XFL 2020 blew up XFL 2001, and now you can literally stay and watching the broadcast on television. You can literally sit back and watch and go, this has just not a chance to be successful. This might actually be the spring league that we've been waiting for decades. Just not 20 years, but since like the USFL before they decide, hey, let's go play during the NFL season.
Or hell, if even going further back, the WFL back
Correct.
in what, 1974, if I remember correctly.
Yes. And plus football talent has gotten a lot better since back in the 70s. There's more people out there, and I think we have something special here. So over the 2 years that we've been promoting this league, of all the negativity that we fought against from the national media who's labeled this league to be a certain political demographic, it really was nice for the XFL this weekend and all the 2 years that it was building up to it to just shove it into the national media's face, shove it into all the radio pundits in the other cities that don't have XFL teams that label these games as nobodies, insignificant individuals, want to be NFL players or NFL rejects, and watch the XFL just throw this product out there, tell all those guys, screw you, we're still doing this, and they knocked it out of the park. Very successful, but then again, the AAF last year had the same type of reaction, and we got to see how it continues throughout the season. So my initial reaction of the XFL in 2020 is it Saturday yet?
And for me, I was blown away. As you guys know, I went to go see the game on Saturday. I almost said Sunday there just because I'm so used to saying Sunday, Sunday, Sunday for football. But the environment, like I said last week, what I was looking for was energy and passion. And that's exactly what I got when I was there. My friend Matt went with me and my girl Steph. And he was actually sitting at the midfield area. And he had better seats than we did because we were sitting in the end zone. And mind you, there really isn't a bad seat at Audi Field per se because it's a very intimate field. You can't miss anything there. It's the perfect size for the DC Defenders. And at one point, there was a seat that was open next to us that throughout the game, by halftime, nobody was there. We're like, hey, man, you want to come join us? We'll get you a couple of beers for, paying for parking. He was the only one that had cash. And he wound up joining us, and he realized that our side in the end zone was really the side to be in because everybody it seemed like it was much quieter midfield. It was like people like, I have my beer and I'm going to watch the game and enjoy it on my ass. I'm not going to stand. But in the end zone, holy cow, like everybody was just screaming and yelling the whole time. You had some Seattle fans there that were trolling us, and then you had the DC fans giving it right back. But it was all in good fun. It wasn't like when you go to an NFL game and people are just really seriously cursing each other out and calling each other ungodly names, like just really getting unpleasant. Like it was more like, well, for lack of a better word, wrestling. They were joning on each other, but we knew it was kayfabe. Like anytime a Seattle fan was walking up and down the stairs, they go boo, boo, and the Seattle fans would just give a thumbs down or a middle finger back, and then everybody just started laughing. Like the environment was fantastic. Everybody was having fun, and the game reflected that. You could see it like right there, right in front of your face. Like it was just great. So far, this past weekend has been so much more than I expected. I knew it was going to be good, and I was just going to be happy to have the XFL back, but it was all that and more. I was shocked absolutely shocked at how enjoyable these goddamn games were. I am so happy with this. But on the flip side of that coin, Sunday was definitely a different day. If the Sunday games, and I hate to say this, felt a lot more like the AAF games. They were slower, there wasn't as much offensive output, and it just didn't quite have the same feel as the day before. But that's forgivable because at the end of the day, football is football, and there are some things you sometimes can't change. Some matches were just always going to wind up being a low scoring much more low-scoring affair, and that can be unavoidable. It happens in the NFL. It happens in a lot of sports leagues. Whether you have two of the greatest soccer teams in the world, it could still wind up being a 1-0 game. That happens sometimes. So for people that are ready to just jump off, I'll go, oh well, Sunday was no good, so the whole league is no good. No, fuck that. This is a good league. They know what they're doing. They just need a couple of tweaks. I thought a few times during the DC game, the referees looked a little confused. The game management, the people that take care of the play clock, I thought they screwed up a few times and they had to pause the game, restart it. But I'd say the 90% of the time, the game ran smoothly and much faster than any football game I've ever seen outside of Arena Football League. Because let's face it, that's Back to the Future fast. Those games are so quick. That's a lot of scoring. But they have something. They clearly have something here. And I cannot wait for next week. I really cannot wait. Unfortunately, I will not be there on Saturday. I got work. I get out at 4 and the game's at 2. So sorry, guys. I won't be able to be there to send out any pictures. Sorry about that. But back to you, James.
Well, you were there and you described, I guarantee you described about 90% of the people who went to XFL games, who went to the 2 XFL games on Saturday. I don't think you actually described the opinions about the fans that went to the XFL games today or on Sunday, because it was almost a complete different feel. On the first day, you saw explosive offenses in Pep Hamilton's DC Defenders and June Jones's Houston Roughnecks, followed by 2 other teams that moved the ball both. Candoff in LA moved the ball up and down the field, made some bad decisions, but you kind of expect that if you're on the road and behind. And Brandon Silvers in Seattle were making some plays at the end. He just kept throwing pick sixes, which is usually you don't want to do.
No, that's usually a bad idea.
That's usually a bad thing to do on the road. And today, on Sunday, you had New York, looks like in a pro style, like really NFL heavy base type of pro style offense. But then again, Gilbride is what they like to call a quarterback whisperer, and he used to be a former coach with the New York Giants.
And I think, the Houston Texans.
And the Texans. No, the Houston Oilers too, I think.
Oh, sorry, Houston Oilers, not Texans. My bad. And there's the Atlanta Falcons. I believe that he was the infamous coach that told Jeff George to go fuck himself back in '93 or '94. I don't know if y'all remember that. Maybe y'all are too young, but just look up Jeff George arguing with Coach on YouTube, and you'll find that. And there's Kevin Gilbride.
Yeah. And then on Sunday night's game, St. Louis and Dallas was, honest opinion, very ugly affair between both teams. But there could be reasons. We'll discuss it later. But you could tell by how your reaction is, how social media was reacting on Saturday, and how social media went from it's hype, it's new, it's exciting. The XFL official Twitter account went from like 200 maybe 24,000 followers this morning or yesterday or Saturday morning to 325 today. So it jumped 100,000 followers overnight. And people want to say, how can you compare that to the other leagues in the past? Well, it destroyed the AAF because the AAF's highest point was 240,000.
Already well past that.
Oh, we were past that. And the XFL surpassed a league that has been around for years. And what I mean by 4 years, I mean about like 70 years, and that's the CFL. And they surpassed them last night sometime, I don't know when, but they did. That just tells you how enthusiastic that the fan or the XFL fans are starting to buy into the league because they finally see the product on the field. They were waiting to say, is this a legit league compared to the XFL in 2001? And now that they know it's not the XFL in 2001, they're like, I can buy into this. And now you're seeing more people tune in. TV ratings came out today. The debut of the Dragons and DC game was at a 3.9 million average at the high point of 4 million. That crushed the AAF because they were at 2.9 when they debuted on CBS at night on primetime. So that tells you that the XFL did a great job of promoting this league. The XFL did a great job of getting the fans interactive social in the social media, and also putting the product on some of the biggest TV networks that cover sports in the United States and the world. That is Fox, that is ESPN. Opening weekend, in my opinion, was a success. By your reaction, Carlos, you're enthusiastic because you went to the game. I guarantee you, when we left the Apollos game last year down in Orlando, our opinions about the Apollos are like, they have something there, but they need a lot of work on it. It didn't feel like, from what I've seen on television from all 4 games, the XFL crowds are more into the game compared to what we saw in Orlando. And I can't really compare it to the San Antonio's crowd in the AAF because they were actually into the games in San Antonio. I don't know why. They were a decent team, but they were enthusiastic. But I remember we went to Orlando last year, and that crowd wasn't nowhere near as into the game as you guys were in DC. And plus, there were about 3,000 less people there compared to Orlando from last year. That tells you what this league is about.
Yeah, I remember there was a lull after the beginning of the game. Like everybody was standing up, and little, by the end of it, like hell, not even at the end of it, by halftime, people were just sitting down and went, yeah, it's all right. Hey, you want to get a beer? You want to go home? Yeah, whatever. And that was it. Like I think the only guy that was really showing the most enthusiasm was the Bud Light night guy. Like he was in an orange Bud Light suit, like a suit of armor for the Orlando Apollos. God bless that guy. I feel so bad for him. I picture him sitting in a dark room right now, wearing the suit 1 year later with no team and seeing the XFL for now succeed. And he's like, I wish that happened to my league.
Or he probably could paint it green and be taking the 2-hour trips to Tampa.
He's probably got a chair like Shawshank Redemption. He's just writing on the ceiling, Bud Light night was here. Life moves too fast, you know. They don't need little old Bud Light guy. I'll see you guys later. And that was it for him. But yeah, this is an absolute success. Right now it is. I mean, next week is going to be a huge testing point. How many people are you going to be able to hold on to? Because no matter what, any premiere is always going to have a lot of eyes on the product, but you are guaranteed to lose some people. And if the XFL can hold on to at least 75% of their audience consistently, boom, it's a winner right then and there. But maybe we ought to start getting into some stats and hits and interceptions and whatnot.
Yeah, one of the biggest stats that was big about this weekend, ESPN reported yesterday that the XFL sold more tickets to its teams and its games in week 1 than the American Alliance of Football did all season last year.
It makes sense because every single game had about 17,000 fans.
Yeah. And for people who are bitching like Pro Football Talk, I know you've seen that article out there, ladies and gentlemen. I guarantee you've seen me tweet it or XFL Newsroom retweet it. It said that's small crowds, but small crowd shows. Small crowds, but enthusiastic. I forgot what the name of the article is.
Yeah, I did read that by NBC. That was insulting.
And I was looking at NBC, and I was like, and I posted a picture, a GIF applies. Because you mad bad, or you mad like you bad mad, like saying that you're mad because the XFL once upon a time was NBC's property. And what they don't realize is that that's exactly what they were averaging back then. But if you're XFL fans right now and you watch the games, you're going to have a lot of like the 4 games that we saw today. Tampa, New York is going to give you about that same 17,000 people range until New York starts winning a lot more games, and when that happens, New Yorkers do support their team. So I expect them to have bigger crowds if they continue to win. Now Dallas had a solid crowd. They weren't as active because that there something happened. Injuries happen and bad football today. But the XFL did very well. We averaged, let me pull up my handy dandy chart that I've been keeping track of. Here are the attendance numbers for all 4 games. In Washington, in Audi Field, the Defenders drew 17,163 people. In New York, the Guardians drew 17,634. The Renegades, 17,026, the lowest attended game of the weekend. And the Houston Roughnecks at 17,815, with a total of 69,638 people, with an average about 17,500. For those 4 games, that's fine, because St. Louis hasn't had a game yet, and Seattle hasn't had a game yet. And those 2 cities are going, from what I've heard from people here on the other podcasts here on the XFL News Network, or Newsroom, excuse me.
There you go.
Seattle and St. Louis are going to draw a lot more than 20,000 in their games. And the big question mark is LA. But then again, if LA gets 7 fans in the stands, they still outdraw the Los Angeles Chargers. And plus, the Tampa Bay Vipers are another question.
Tampa Bay Randy Ortons.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Randy Ortons, which will be debuting. The XFL Unhinged podcast will be debuting a new team name for the Tampa Bay Vipers. So you should tune in to it as well. If you listened to our podcast last year, you'll know where we're headed. But 17,500 average for the first weekend, not bad. I expected that, and Pro Football Talk said the league won't survive if it stays under 20,000. Well, you got to ask Oliver Luck and Vince McMahon. When the beginning when this league started, they're targeting around 20,000 people average for a stadium size for year 1. They don't expect anything higher. Anything higher than that, they'll be happy. So that was, in my opinion, Pro Football Talk taking a shot at the XFL, because they're one of those news sites that want to, give you false information about the league that we've been covering for 2 years, and what you guys have been tuning into us for the last 2 years for, to get your information about the XFL.
And we thank you.
And we probably there's another stat we need to talk about. 300 followers here at the XFL Unhinged podcast over the last week and a half. I do want to say thank you. We appreciate you following us. We're not associated with the XFL. None of us in the XFL newsroom are associated with the XFL. We're just fan-based podcast. We are you guys. We're fans, but we like to talk about it, and we want to be you guys' voices about it. So we want to thank you for sticking with us for 2 years. Thank you for the new people who arrived. Remember, go to the XFL Newsroom Unhinged podcast as well, and American Noise podcast, and this is the XFL podcast Discord page at xflnewsroom.com. We're up to about 500 users in there, so those chat boards are very exciting. Dallas fans are not too happy right now, but besides from that, let's get to talking about some games. Let's go to D.C., where the Seattle Dragons and the D.C. Defenders kicked off the new era of the XFL. The Seattle Dragons, led by Interception Verdi, a.k.a. Brandon Silvers, my MVP pick, just completely pissed me off. I want to demand a redo on my MVP, sir. I'm putting all my votes in on P.J. Walker as of now.
Yeah, I might have to do that too. Although Rashad Ross did play quite well.
The DC Defenders held. It was a little, like I said in our last podcast, it's going to be a little scrappy in the first half with the DC Defenders pulling away in the second half. I did re-listen to my podcast to make sure our last podcast to make sure that I did say that, and I did. So check one for the home team. The DC Defenders defeated the Seattle Dragons 31-19. And the player of the game, in my opinion, of that was, of course, the man himself, a 12 gauge, Cardell Jones. He was 16 for 26, 283 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Some good over-the-shoulder throws to Rashard Ross and Rogers, and of course the play of the game by him was the double reverse flea flicker that got the tight end Lee wide open on the sideline that went for I think 46 yards for a touchdown. It was a good win for DC to start off, but I just want to say on Seattle side of things, uh, you might have to start thinking about possibly giving BJ Daniels some more playing time. Brandon Silvers, the first half was looking like he was, making that mark, but he was throwing passes to tight ends and slant routes that are very close to linebackers for getting intercepted. And just sooner or later, when you keep fighting fire or fighting fire with fire, you're going to throw an interception.
Yeah,
And
that pick six was a killer. That sealed the game.
But even though that Seattle lost, I don't think they're the worst team in the league in the first week. Uh, they actually have a couple of dudes on that team that I honestly didn't think were going to have good games. Not really good, not good games. I didn't think that we're going to be like legit. What's his name? Farrow? Is it Kenneth Farrow? The running back, he had he had a solid game, 41 yards. But the man who I want to say that is uh, the wide receiver, number 19 or 13.
Ricky Prohl's son. I believe it's Andy or Aaron Prohl.
Yeah, he caught 2 touchdowns and he caught a nice. It looked like Brain Silvers. I think it was somewhere in the second quarter, or yeah, I think it was the second quarter. He stepped up in the pocket and he looked like he was going to run. Then he threw sidearm, and I was like, "Where the hell are you doing throwing sidearm?" And then Ricky and Prohl was there, and he just made one guy miss, and he went to the house. That was a guy that I didn't expect to pop out anywhere because everyone thought it was going to be either real Reynolds or Gardner or Williams, and it was him. He got the first touchdown of the XFL season. So, besides the game being sluggish at the beginning, like you thought a lot of these games are going to be, the better team did win. The Defenders' defense just shut down Seattle's offense, and Silvers just kept getting in his own way, throwing bad passes and bad interceptions. The pick six that he threw that completely changed the whole game. The receiver, a tight end, I forgot the number of the guy who did. He was running a quick 5-yard hitch route, and he slipped on his cut, and Silvers threw it right where the tight end was supposed to be, and that's where it went for a pick six, and that was basically the game. The Washington Defenders won the game 31-19. They improved to 1-0 on the season, and they got a big matchup next week against the New York Guardians.
Hey, quick thing before we do continue, because I can kind of feel it the way you're going. If that pick six had not happened, Silvers would have had 213 yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 pick. So a lot of people are going to be crapping on him because of that. But if you go back and watch that play, like you said, his tight end slipped. That was not on him. And I actually think I disagree with you with switching up Silvers with Daniels, because I do believe that Silvers will be better off for them, because that pick six that happened, honestly, as a DC fan, I got to be honest with y'all, that was pure blind luck right there. Our guy was right there where he needed to be. He was in the coverage. Absolutely. He did his job as a defender, but the man slipped, and it came right to him. If he hadn't
that was
slipped,
not the only
that ball
play,
would have
though.
gone in. Absolutely. No, I agree. But, dude, over 200 yards for a debut and 3 touchdowns, that's still pretty damn good. I would stick with Silver. I definitely would stick with Silver right now.
Well, if you let's just say that pick six was a fluke of an interception. Basically, it was a good read by Silvers to throw the route because that tight end was open. He just fell, and the DB who was covering, I think Ross, read the play and he threw it right to him. But that's just one play. He was making bad decisions, toying with outside linebackers on slant routes with tight ends, or a running back that was running out of the backfield. He was throwing, like early in the game, he was throwing passes like, you stop throwing those passes, you're going to get picked. It's yes, we're not talking about this is not NFL type of linebackers, but these are professional athletes, and if you give those linebackers enough bait, they're going to pick you off. And he fought fire with fire too much, but then again, they're the first possession of the game. They drive right down the field and get a touchdown. He was, but those, of course, usually when you watch a lot of football games, I don't care what league you watch, those first 10 plays are scripted, so they know what type of plays they are. But Silver,
I still think that Silver. I know, yeah, he definitely has some of the bad throws, but I don't really attribute that necessarily to him. I attribute that more to this is a brand new league. These guys did have more practice than the original XFL, but they're still getting used to it, and they're still trying to get that chemistry down. I think that within a couple of weeks, he's going to be better, and I do believe that Seattle will show their real potential. You just got to give them time.
Oh yeah, every quarterback in this league, you gotta give him time, no matter what. Not all of them will have a debut like Philip Walker, or PJ Walker, wherever you want to call him. But this game between DC and Seattle, DC capitalized on turnovers,
and that's what you got to do. That's what the great teams do.
I don't care if I don't care if it's week 1. I don't care if it's week 6. I don't care if it's week 16. I know we don't play 16 weeks here in the XFL, but in the NFL, usually when you capitalize on turnovers and you get points out of turnovers, like my head coach back in high school called, he goes, those are free points. The opponent's just giving you free points. But for bright sides for Seattle, they do have some good receivers, young receivers that they shined. Silvers, I know, was kind of iffy. BJ Daniels came in later and basically threw 2 incomplete passes and got sacked. But that was at the end of the game.
The running game is pretty good, though. I mean, 7 attempts by Farrow, 9 attempts by Gardner, 41-36. One's averaging 5.9, the other 4. Those are still some good numbers, but this definitely is more of an air it out kind of league, and that is set up by design.
Yeah.
But that is a big bright side for the Dragons. So don't be too down on yourselves, guys.
Also, it also doesn't help when you are in second and long, and that's where you get away from your running game when you're second and long.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of possessions where Seattle was in that position. But basically on this first game, I know a lot of Seattle Dragon fans after yesterday's game are like, oh, we look like the worst team in the XFL. Great. We made Cardale Jones look like he's a beast. Well, the guy is a beast. You got him on the ground, but there were some times yesterday's game that Cardale Jones used his freaking body as what he used to be in Ohio State. You're not going to arm tackle me. He made plays, just pure strength out of tackles to keep plays alive, throwing dimes when he needed to, and I was thinking the third quarter, he was about to get sacked. He breaks away from it and basically tosses the ball to, I want to say it was Ross for 10 yards off of a 3rd and 10. And it was almost a loss of 6 yards, and he threw it down and got the first down. And I was like, that's the Cardale Jones that the NFL wants to see, because he has that ability to make those plays, but he just didn't do it in the NFL. He did it in the DC, and it was a great performance by Cardale. Was he the best quarterback of the weekend? He's the top 3 in my opinion, but at the end of the completion of the first game, we thought he was. But one thing I do want to say to you, Carlos, and to all the DC Defender fans out there, this is the Unhinged podcast. We're going to get a little unhinged right here. He's not the MVP. Stop chanting that after the second play of the first quarter of a damn game.
God damn it, you shut up. PJ Walker wasn't playing yet, damn it.
And chanting MVP. And when we get to New York, they were doing the same thing with McGloin right off the bat.
I did hear that. Now, that one made me laugh. That made me look back at myself like, oh, crap. They made us look like jackasses.
But I thought overall the presentation of the game, the product on the field, and the atmosphere in DC was the perfect place to kick off the new era. I love that Audi field, the size of that stadium, 20,000. Of course, there were 17,000 there, but that's literally 80% of the stadium being being filled.
Food.
I thought it was a very for the first game of the season. You see what Seattle can potentially be, and that's an offense. Their defense is a little questionable, but you could tell that DC from now that we have seen all 4 games, DC is clearly, in my opinion, I don't know if it was yours. I think DC is clearly the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference after the Eastern Division after the first weekend of the season.
I would agree with that. Trying to be very bipartisan as possible, but absolutely, our offense showed out a lot more than New York's did. New York started off pretty well, but if you compare the 2 offenses, we were just a few notches, or maybe more than a few notches better. I definitely think that, although the Guardians' defense is pretty damn good, but we will get to that in a bit. I feel like we're overstepping ourselves, but you brought up Mr. PJ. So what do you say we move over to the little old state of Texas and talk about Houston and LA?
Hey, the little old state, Texas. Oh,
of course, I meant that facetiously, but all right.
Boy, the little old state, Texas. Well, probably the most exciting game of the weekend, high flying. We had the Los Angeles Wildcats travel to the Houston Roughnecks to kick off the Fox side of things for the XFL. And first off, I just want to say this. Props to Houston for showing out. Props for them opening up the second deck of their stadium. And 17,815 were in the building. They were raucous. They were crazy. They were loud. And they were entertained. And that's what you need to do to get this league to succeed. But the reason why they were raucous and the reason why they were entertained is because of what P.J. Walker was doing. That man, ladies and gentlemen, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to be the XFL MVP, and he will be back in the NFL somewhere. And you will see him on Sundays in the NFL next year and go, hey, that used to be the Roughnecks quarterback. Let's go over what this man did last night or Saturday night.
All right.
This man, first off, mobile, agile, fast out of the pocket, smart decisions with the ball. He did throw an interception that was basically what I like to call a trash interception, meaning the game really didn't matter at that point. That interception wasn't going to do anything. But it did hurt his quarterback, his quarterback rating. Apparently that's what a lot of guys like is their QPR. His quarterback rating was a 103.8, which is good, but he was also 23 for 39, 265 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interceptions. With that statistics of a quarterback this week, Philip Walker, or PJ Walker, or however you want to say his name, is the XFL Unhinged podcast Offensive Player of the Week winner. So, congratulations, PJ. We don't have an award for you, but you are the Offensive Player of the Week for us. So, that man impressed me. Throwing dimes. There was a play, and I think in the third quarter, he looked like he was getting sacked. He ran out of the pocket and just just flicked his wrist, and the ball went 45 yards down the field to a wide open receiver, Sam Mobley, which I told you ladies and gentlemen, our last podcast, a receiver to watch out for. It was Sam Mobley with the Houston the Houston Roughnecks.
Don't talk about them damn cheating Astros.
Yes.
Especially when I'm around.
Well, the one thing that impressed me about the Houston Roughnecks is, honestly, to be really, really honest, ladies and gentlemen, I thought it would have been Dallas with this, what I'm about to say. I thought this would be labeled in Dallas. I have to say it.
Say it, brother. Let it out.
Houston has the best wide receiver core. Sammy Coates, Sam Mobley. Look, this is the receiving core, ladies and gentlemen. Phillips, 67 yards. Mobley, 39 yards. Butler, 20 yards. Sammy Coates, 26. Hollandly, 50. Lewis, 45. PJ Walker just didn't throw the ball to one or two receivers. He threw it everywhere.
And that's the sign of an excellent quarterback. I was just looking
correct.
at the numbers here, too. A majority of the players on the team, besides one Phillips, my bad, my man. Oh, no, not Phillips. Sorry. Malone. Malone caught 4 passes, but it was only for 18 yards. Most of these guys, they got multiple catches, were averaging at least 9 yards a catch. You got Lewis here, 5 catches, averaging 9 yards per catch. Holly, 4 catches, averaging 12.5. Coates, averaging 13 off 2 catches. Butler, averaging 10. I mean, that's what you need right there. That's how you keep moving the ball, and that's how you win. And PJ did a phenomenal job of spreading the ball around. And I mean to cut you off there, but I was just looking at the stats and seeing a connection there. There's a rhythm to this offense.
You can cut me off anytime. That says basically you're breaking down the game. We're breaking down games. We all seen these games. So if you're listening to this podcast, you know exactly what we're talking about. And we're gonna bring back some stuff that from yesteryear for other leagues comparisons. I don't understand how he's not on an NFL roster. I did not see an XFL quarterback play there. And me downing the Roughnecks this whole hype up train to the season, saying I don't think they're going to be as good as they think they're going to be because Connor Cook should be starting, not Philip Walker. Wow, they really slapped me in the face with knowledge. Holy crap.
And this is why, personally myself, I wasn't really putting too much stock in trying to predict who's going to do this and who's going to do that. Because to me, it just felt redundant. We haven't seen all these guys play together. We don't have a history of this. We're talking about a league that hasn't been around in 19 years. And to be able to think that we could possibly predict how all of these guys playing together for the first time in their careers on a team like this, with new rules like this, with a structure like this, was absolutely insane to me. So I didn't bother. I wasn't going to be here and be like, oh, well, this guy's from Penn State or this guy's from UCLA. I didn't put any stock into that because how can you possibly begin to think that you can predict this? And let's talk about Vegas. Vegas was saying that Tampa Bay was going to be number 1. And look at what we saw. That clearly is not the case. That's what I was saying on the last podcast. I believe that once we have the numbers, once we actually have the play, then we can try to start to put a picture together of what these teams are going to be and what this league is going to be. And to try to do that beforehand, I just thought was nuts. And so far, not to toot my own horn too much. I mean, I'll do it anyway, but not to do it too much. This has proven me right. And on the one hand, I'm happy about it, but on the other hand, I feel really bad for the people that really, really, really were putting in hard work into trying to figure this out. So I don't want to condemn people for doing that because, again, it's a very mathematical sport. I respect the hell out of the people that try to predict this stuff, but I just never thought it was going to turn out that way, and this weekend has shown us that. It's an incredibly unpredictable game, and it's a very unpredictable league.
Of course, when you don't have history of a league that was in 2019 or 2018, even though we know majority of these players played in the AAF last year, doesn't mean that they're going to have the same chemistry when they go to the new league because they may be playing with completely different players. Because unlike the AAF, the XFL, it didn't do regional drafts. Each team has people from everywhere. But all the positive signs that we've seen from the Houston Roughnecks, the LA Wildcats, on the other hand, came into the game without starting quarterback Josh Johnson. He has a lingering hamstring injury.
I felt so bad for him.
So Charles Kanoff started the game. Let's just say if you wanted to talk about a quarterback that at times looked like he was sharp, made some sharp decisions and getting the ball out of the pocket because Houston's defensive line was getting that backfield quickly all night. So either A, Houston has a great defensive line, or B, the Wildcats' offensive line is not up to par yet. But then again, learning how to be an offensive lineman is one of the hardest positions to learn, or units to become, build chemistry with each other.
And one of the most unappreciated.
Yes. But one guy that everyone needs to look at. You could tell that he is a fan of the WWE. Is his name is Josh Smallwood. He caught a 1 point conversion and a touchdown in the game, and proceeded to do the Randy Orton's pose. And with him doing that, gave me homage. Is like, yes, Vince McMahon created this league. Thank you. But that's as close as we saw the XFL and the WWE getting connected. When we see players do that, I'm completely fine. We didn't see Vince McMahon come out and make a stupid speech. We didn't see WWE superstars on the sideline promoting something. It was treated like a professional league, and that was awesome. But LA's problem, my opinion, and I'm going to announce it right here: 43 yards, 21 yards, 14, 10, 6, 1. Those are the amount of rushing yards that each individual had for the LA offense.
Well, the running game anyway.
Running game, yes. When you're Moss, I know you're not listening to our podcast because you don't think we're significant or intelligent enough as fans who, fans are treated a lot as people that don't know the game. We're not coaches.
2 plus 2 equals chicken, clearly.
Yeah. Moss, when you're without your starting quarterback, you do not tell your backup quarterback to go in there and start slinging the ball around without establishing one thing, and that's the running game. LA's best chance yesterday of beating the Roughnecks, especially how the Roughnecks started off the game, was to slow down the game and run the clock. They decided to go, hey, you want to go fast? We're going to go fast. And basically, if you compare it to other sports, if you're a shooting basketball team, shoot threes, and that's your thing, you want to make the other opponent to play like you because that makes you in your comfort zone. You don't want to change your comfort zone. Like, I'm going to start playing big man middle when that's not your style. How did the Cavaliers beat the Warriors a couple years ago? They slowed down the damn game because they know that Golden State wanted to go fast. In this game, LA made a stupid decision for a guy who's supposed to be defensive minded, Coach Moss. Hey, you want to go pace with Houston. Houston played their game, their style, and they beat you with their style. And you were not meant to play their style because you were without your starting quarterback. You might have that same that style of offense if you had your number one guy. You didn't have your number one guy. And then again, you trade away your real number one guy to New York. And that made me also look back at it and go, you know what? When you trade away Luis Perez to the New York Guardians, Luis Perez right now is laughing his ass off. So I'm a backup here in New York, and I could have been started there down in LA. So am I a little testy here? Well, yes, kind of, because LA, I just don't like coaches. I don't care what sport you're in, from hockey, the soccer, the women's croquet. I don't like coaches that get their egos in their way and believe that their type of coaching, their type of mindset works. Coach Moss, for some odd reason, decided to go, oh, okay, I'm not equipped to do this, but I think we'll have a chance to do this. And they start going straight, like fast pace. Yes, you did have guys like Barnes and Nelson Spruce just went off, but your quarterback is being rushed. He was getting sacked a lot, and he was making dumb decisions, like you see a lot of quarterbacks that get under arrest from a lot of pressure. Problem is that Moss didn't adjust his game plan. He's like, oh, we can't do this. Let's try to slow down the game and try to keep Houston's offense off the field. I hate when I see coaches think they can go play by play with a team that they know they're not capable of doing, like a June Jones offense, and think they're going to go up and down the field.
And you actually just reminded me of a big moment in that game too, where it was a major fatal flaw by Mr. Moss. Canoff is okay.
Talking about the third down. He
Oh,
wanted
no,
to go
not
for it.
the third down. Yeah, the 4th and 6. He's saying,
Yeah.
"Yo, we got to go for it. We got to do it." Moss wasn't trying to hear it. Moss only wanted to hear his own thoughts. He wasn't willing to hear constructive criticism from his quarterback, who a reminder to the coach is trying to win for him and is saying, "Yo, we need to go for it on 4th down. We're down by 2 scores. We cannot punt the ball." And Moss wanted to punt the ball. That's why he was arguing with him. So yeah, they failed on that 4th down, but the coach should have recognized that Canoff was trying to win for the team and he was trying to bring positivity there. But what does he do? He benches him for McClendon.
Yeah, Josh McClendon.
And how did that go? Horrendously. He was trying to send a message like, "No, I run the show here. This is my team." Not realizing that by doing that, he completely killed the team's morale. And they didn't recover after that. And that was a wrap. Houston just ate their lunch.
Oh, yeah, of course. And I thought Moss, from watching the first half, I was like, okay, well, LA might have the ability to do this. Let's go. Let's do what the XFL wants. Let's shoot them. Let's shoot out. Then all of a sudden, I'm just starting watching Canoff and start watching the LA's offense. I'm like, they're not meant for this. The style formations they were bringing out there with a 2-back set, a 1-back set, extra tight end. I'm like, they're not going 4 wide. They're not going 5 wide like Houston is. They're not built to go up and down the field like Houston is. So they need to slow this game down, and he didn't do it. You have a very good running back in Elijah Hood back there that can take the pounding and take the rock about 25 times. And that's what I like. I know I'm getting worked up with this, but I hate when coaches get their egos in their way because they think that their ideas are going to be the reasons why it's going to be make or break in the league. And because of his stupid decisions, especially that 3rd down, if my quarterback came, or 4th down, excuse me, if my quarterback came up to me saying, "We got to go for this, 4th and 6, and we're down 2 scores," and my quarterback came up to me with that confidence, I don't care who it is. I don't care if he's Gardner Minshew. I don't care if he's Charles Gandalf. I don't care if he's Tom Brady. He's going back out there because I can see he's confident.
And he cares. He absolutely cares. He's playing with his heart.
I don't care if he goes out there and messes up, throws an interception, or it gets hit and gets fumbled. At least he had balls to come up to me and say, "We got to go for this," and convince me. And Moss used his ego. But
you know who would care for that? Bill Belichick. How many times have we seen plays where Brady does that and maybe Belichick doesn't agree with it, but you don't see him benching him? And I know maybe that's a big comparison. Maybe that's stretching it a bit far. But I do hope that as you hear us, you understand what we mean.
Yeah.
You play with your heart and you actually care. A coach should respect that, not bench you for it. That was by far the dumbest thing I've seen so far.
Yeah, but Coach
XFL
Moss,
season.
Yeah, even though his ego got in his way that game, the second half his ego got in his way, but he wasn't the worst coaching performance of the weekend. I'm just going to say that right now.
I know who it was. That's coming up in the next game.
Yeah. Besides from that, LA's defense did have some good stands throughout the game, and of course you can't have great stands. You can't have like a shiny moment. At this point, it's like, hey, that's a great play. That was actually awesome. But Sean Oakman actually made an appearance in this game. He made his first tackle, and also got a roughing the passer at the same time. Then I was like, oh, that's a first down. Then the next play later, Sam Mobley catches a touchdown pass from PJ Philip Walker. One thing I've noticed about the Wildcats game, they were penalized. And when teams get penalized like they did, I know it wasn't, a dramatic penalty, not penalties. Like there's like a couple holdings that they did at wrong times. They had 7 penalties for 54 yards. I know that's not a big number because Houston had 4 for 69, but their 54-yard penalties came at wrong times. Like I think there was like I want to say the 3rd quarter they had like a 3rd and 2, and they got a false start. They went 3rd and 7, and the next play was a sack, then the punt, then it was
disaster.
It was all down. LA had penalties at the wrong time, and at the wrong time during possessions or during the game. And that's a sign of an undisciplined and uncoached team early. Usually when penalties you see like that on crucial downs that are holding false, especially ones that are a false start and legal formation, those are coaching. Holding's different. That's not coaching. That's just the offensive lineman holding a little bit too much. But then again, offensive linemen hold all the time. One thing that also killed
LA.
LA was almost said Houston again. I was talking about LA. One thing that killed LA the most was fourth down conversion. They were 1 for 5, and that's not winning football games at all. And I know it's the first game of the season, and I know we're a little crucial on Coach Moss. I didn't expect them to beat Houston anyways, but when you have a team like Houston and how they were performing on Saturday night, you have to make adjustments. And if you don't make adjustments, I don't care what league you're in, you're going to lose games. And from what I've seen throughout this weekend, even though Sunday's games are different, we'll get to them, LA was the worst team on Saturday. Seattle was a better coached team than LA, even though they lost.
Shockingly, because of Jim Zorn. I mean, I didn't see that coming, but that's just prior experience. But hey, 10 years will make a hell of a difference to any coach.
LA has talent. They need to start a quarterback back in. They need to go back in LA, practice, get ready for Dallas. Dallas is coming in, limping in too. They might actually have Landry Jones in next week, so we could be seeing a different Dallas team next week. But my anger of watching this new league was watching Coach Moss just take the team by his own ego and throw it into the trash. And that just, for me, I don't like seeing coaches do that because they are so hard, they want their game plan to work because they think they know it 100% of the time. And it ends up being the reason why the team loses. And I saw social media last night. I saw stuff on our Discord last night. There are LA fans already asking for Moss's job, and we're only one game through the season. That tells you how bad coaching decisions he did throughout the game. And the Candoff situation really showed his ego through the situation. I may be blowing this out of proportion. I just don't like how one coaches do that. But Saturday ends with Houston defeating the LA Wildcats 37-17 in front of a nice crowd in Houston of 17,815. Houston is home next week against St. Louis. LA is home against the Dallas Renegades next week. So we go into Sunday. And Sunday, we had the New York Guardians take on the Tampa Bay Vipers. And today, here at Unhinged Podcast, like we did against the AAF, we renamed the team because this team was god-awful. So, Unhinged Podcast is officially renamed the Tampa Bay Vipers to the Tampa Bay Geckos. There's no sting in the bites. There's no ready to strike. We just go after Winston Moss about his poor coaching style. Mark Trestman forgot to show up to New York.
I got a lot to say about Trestman, but continue.
First off, New York, you did your job. Matt McGloin, you look like you got your step back. You're making some nice throws. You were making some NFL throws out there today, or it's Sunday. Decent crowd in New York. Not bad, 17,600. New York's defense flying around, making plays, making big hits. But Mark Trestman, when your quarterback is trash, when your quarterback is not making simple reads, when your quarterback is throwing interceptions in zone coverages, that's when you make the decision to bench your quarterback. We've seen this before with Aaron Murray in Atlanta last year. The same Aaron Murray arrived again this year. Aaron Murray did not do what I thought he was going to do. And I have, actually, from all the articles I've read from Tampa Bay websites, Aaron Murray is supposed to be a better quarterback most improved. But if you look at his overall stats as a quarterback, 16 for 34, 222 yards, which is not bad. But the problem is the 2 interceptions.
Well, the other
Yes,
thing too, you got to take into account is how many times he threw the ball. He threw the ball 34 times, and
yes,
he averaged 6.8 yards. Like that's not good enough.
yes.
Those are just like numbers that will trick you. 22 looks good, but he only averaged 6.8. That there's major problems there.
Tampa Bay should have ran the ball more. Every time Davion Smith got the ball, he was getting good chunks of yards. I think he, 16 carries for 79 yards. That's pretty good.
That's insane. He averaged 4.9.
Yeah.
Clearly they have a run game because they got
Yeah.
over 100 yards, and I believe there's them and LA were the only two teams with over 100 yards rushing, both in losing efforts because
Yeah,
both teams got away from the run game.
Yeah. And Mark Trestman's offense, I don't know. I thought he was supposed to be some Canadian Football League wizard, 5Y, shoot him up, shoot him out, not shoot him up. Wow, we're getting
Shoot
like
him up, lay him up.
we're getting to the we're getting to the league right here, the TV show, the league, not the NFL. Trestman,
UFL.
yeah, Trestman.
Mhm.
This is the reason why you got fired in Chicago. This is why you got released in Canada. It's you get sold on your starting quarterback and you're afraid to make the switch. When Quentin Flowers came in today, yes, he only threw, I think, two passes.
Two passes, 22 yards.
Yeah. But Quentin Flowers came in, he was an instant, like the offense got a little upbeat when he was in because he's mobile. Like I stated in the previous show last week, Quentin Flowers has the intangibles to be like Lamar Jackson. He is not Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have the arm like Lamar, but he's mobile enough where he can make plays with his feet and might get some receivers open. The thing is that Tampa Bay, yes, they lost today and didn't look good at all today.
Couldn't even score a touchdown.
Couldn't even score a touchdown today. The worst team in the league. They only scored 3 points. Where they're going to do this next week? They're traveling to Seattle, who I think, even though Seattle lost, they're not the worst team. Seattle's going to beat Tampa Bay next week unless Mark Trestman makes a decision to bench Aaron Murray and start Quentin Flowers, or their backup, I forgot his name, Cornelius, I think his backup is, the former guy from Oklahoma State. I need to pull that up and see who it is.
You know better than I.
Yeah. But I watched that entire game, and Aaron Murray was throwing when they were guys open. He was throwing the ball at his receivers' feet. When receivers were open, they weren't catching them. That's not Aaron Murray's fault.
I was going to say, to his credit, some of his numbers don't reflect the drops. There definitely were some drop passes that should have been caught, but they left them out to dry, and that seriously affected the games and stalled out drives and killed them.
Yeah, and he also had 2 drives where he throws to his tight end. His tight end catches the ball. Then tight end makes a football move, then loses the football.
Yes.
But in the first quarter, Tampa Bay drove right down the field. New York already scored a touchdown, opened the drive. Tampa Bay was going right down the field, go to score, and he just got an 18-yard play to Reese Horn, set him up on a first and goal in the 2. So what does he do? A play action fade route to the end zone coverage. 5 freaking Guardians are right there, and he throws it. Besides throwing it away, and that didn't anger me, as I'm not a fan of that. I just like to see good football. And watching a quarterback like that has been in the league for 4 years, who has been cut from teams because of that. This is not college football anymore, Aaron Murray. Your team is not far superior than the other teams you'll play throughout the season. You're all equal in this league. You throw into quadruple coverage, the chances that get an interception is higher than if there's only single coverage. Just saying, the numbers are not in your favor when there's more than 2 defenders. Usually, you don't want to throw the ball in the end zone. You want to throw it out of the end zone. But one bright spot I did like on Tampa Bay's team was Reese Horn. Reese Horn, if you're an XFL fan or an AF fan, for last year he played for the Memphis. He was a very steady receiver with Memphis, and it looked like him and Aaron Murray and Reese Horn were getting, building chemistry and having good connections. But there were times in that game today where Tampa would start going on a run. The quarterback's getting his groove. I don't care if it was Flowers or Murray. Then Tressman makes a change when the team's game momentum. Why would you do that? Tressman was pretty much getting the shotgun and blowing his own foot off every time Tampa Bay was driving the ball. Tampa Bay had, I think, let me get the stats right here. Yeah, Tampa Bay, ladies and gentlemen, had 394 yards of total offense. They outgained New York.
Almost had nothing to show for it.
Yeah, almost 400 yards of offense, and only had 3 points. That's what tells you what turnovers do. And they had, I think they had 3 turnovers today. I know they had 2 interceptions and a fumble.
Yeah, so that would make for 3 right there. And what is the shame of it is that they absolutely wasted the performance of the wide receiver Williams, who had 6 receptions for 123 yards, averaged 20 yards a catch, and had a long catch of 42 yards. You look at his numbers, and you're like, wait, did that really happen? Like, you forget about it because the team was so inept as soon as they got anywhere close to the end zone. And their kicker did them no favors by missing that 1 field goal. So, I mean, I feel bad putting on the kicker because you really shouldn't. It should never be left up to the kicker. But I just feel like Tressman absolutely wasted what great play he had going from his players. And I found it interesting that Greg Olson had pointed out that Mark Tressman had abandoned the West Coast offense because he thought that it wouldn't work in the XFL. It's like, no, that's not necessarily true. I mean, it can work in the confines of it if you know how to work around the XFL rules. And that seems to have been his problem in Chicago as well, was that he would overthink it too much. He'd be like, oh, well, I've been using this forever. It won't work here. No, that's not true. You can absolutely make it work, but you need to work around the system. He's just overthinking it too much. And that is my biggest criticism of Mark Tressman. And on top of that, when I see him out there, he comes across as a robot on the field. No emotion. I don't think that the players connect to him. Now, maybe they did in Canada because that's where he had his greatest success, but it clearly didn't happen in Chicago, where that city demands passion, clearly. And in Tampa, clearly, it's not showing up. The team looked lethargic. You saw sloppy play. You saw drop passes, bad tackling. Although, to be fair to him, he's not really much of a defensive coach. The point being is that he just he's overthinking things, and he's not able to reach the players. How do I reach these kids? He hasn't figured it out. I just don't think that he's made for the XFL. But not to crap on him too much. We'll see what happens. Maybe next week they can figure it out. Maybe next week they can get it going.
Yeah, they could try and get it going next week, but they got to go cross country to Seattle, and Seattle's been pretty high on ticket sales right now for attendance, so they might have a great crowd there for Saturday night's game that starts at 5 o'clock on Fox, I think. Yes, Fox is Saturday night's game. But if you go back to this game, let's switch to the New York side of the ball. I know we bashed Tampa Bay here for a good while.
But what about the good?
The good is honestly the New York Guardians. Matt McGloin, 15 for 29, 182 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. You kind of got like the player of the week, I think, award by the XFL, or Player of the Day award for the XFL.
Yeah, Player of Sunday, that's fine. Player of the Week, hell no, that's Mr. Walker.
Yeah, 15 for 29 for 182 yards screams to me as quarterback manager, our program manager, game manager. But He was making throws early in the game that were very, very impressive, NFL type throws. There was also throws in the game that he couldn't make, maybe because the receiver didn't make the right cut, or you can say how quarterbacks, no matter what quarterbacks do or practice or how they prepare for games, sometimes certain quarterbacks just can't throw certain type of patterns or certain type of routes because their arm strength's not there. But overall, the last time we saw Matt McGloin in Oakland, it was a dumpster fire because it's Oakland and it's always a dumpster fire in Oakland. Um, he played very well, and when you have a guy like that play like that, especially with his running backs being pretty much nowhere to be seen. I know Victor had a decent game, but only 9 carries for 32 yards. Thought he had more of an impact than that. But if you look at his receivers, Joe Horn was a standout. Joe Horn Jr. He is the son of Joe Horn. But even though New York seemed like the offense got their points because, of course, 3 turnovers, and you had an inept offense on the other side field that was constantly giving you great field positions. But when you look at the New York side of the ball, their defense was everywhere. Their defense was flying around, uh, led by Henney, who had 9 tackles, 7 assists, which is good. He is I think I don't want to think it says right there. He's a free safety, so he was making plays. But then again, you make a lot of plays when an opposing offense is running like 500 yards of total offense. But the Guardians' defense, in my opinion, was very, very aggressive. They were getting in the backfield, aggravating the hell out of Murray. Murray was seeing ghost for most of the game, and that's a sign that you can have any type of style quarterback you want on your offense, like Matt McGloin or Luis Perez, if you have a defense like New York has. Because a defense like New York has can shut down teams, and you can just be a game manager or a game changer, or whatever you want to call it, and throw for 190 yards and a touchdown because you know your defense is going to get 2 turnovers and give you short fields for a couple of them.
Especially when they force 3 fumbles
Exactly. When
and 2 picks.
Yeah, when the Guardians did win this game, did they win in dominant fashion? I saw an article that said the New York the Guardians dominate Vipers. It wasn't domination. The Guardians just capitalized on Tampa Bay's mistakes. They didn't just go out there and beat them fair, like beat them without turnovers. Tampa basically is like, here you go. It was like that Bart Simpson gif you see on social media. Hey, here's the cake, and it's just footballs of interceptions and fumbles. But if you want to talk about how the Guardians, in my opinion, stack up with the rest of the XFL, um, they're right behind DC, in my opinion, in the East, and they're definitely third place behind the Houston Roughnecks. But it was a good showing by the Guardians, a good showing by the fans in New York. But can you really say they're going to be a 6-4 team or a team that's going to compete for the division, or what Carlos thinks wins the XFL title after their appearance against the Tampa Bay Vipers? We don't know. Oh, excuse me, the Tampa Bay Geckos.
Sticking with that, I see.
I'm going to try to. I'm going to try and offend as many Tampa Bay Gecko fans as possible. And the reason why we gave the nickname Gecko, ladies and gentlemen, is that what I've seen today, you are the worst team in the league. And I don't think you guys are going to win a lot of games this year. I don't know why Vegas thought you were going to win 8.5 or 7.5 games. I should have bet the under on that big time. I think I would have won a lot of money. But how this nickname thing happens in our show, ladies and gentlemen, is that you have to win a game to get your name. And right now, you're no Viper. You're no Ready to Strike. You're a car insurance gecko trying to sell car insurance or insurance purposes to every opponent you play because of the ass kicking that you're about to receive. But besides, New York was solid. Is New York a postseason playoff team in the Eastern Conference? Or Eastern Division? Maybe. But they're clearly better than St. Louis. That defense is going to win them a lot of games. And with the offense that it is, the New York Guardians, you don't need a Landry Jones. You don't need a Philip Walker. Matt McGloin is that type of quarterback that can fit your system and work. And it was a solid win. They defeated. They held on to defeat. Oh, not really. Not hold on. They actually won by 20 points. They defeated
Yeah.
They defeated the Tampa Bay Vipers 23-3 in front of 17,000 people. So it was a good win by New York, and nothing impressive. They took care of business. That's what you need to do sometimes against bad teams. You need to just take care of them.
And with that said, what do you say we get to St. Louis and Dallas?
All right, the
Yeah.
final game of the final weekend with the St. Louis BattleHawks traveled to the Dallas Renegades. If you look at social media over the last couple of hours on Sunday, if you're listening to this podcast, it's on Sunday. A lot of the Renegade fans are having memes of them being as Cowboys. They say, "Hey, you're the new logo. Wait a minute, you look familiar." And they lift up the mask, and it's the Dallas Cowboy logo. St. Louis, unlike LA and unlike Tampa Bay, they did one thing that they needed to do to win the game, and that is run the football. And that doesn't mean just hand it off to Christine Michael or hand it off to Matt Jones. Jordan Tiamu did a lot of run too. But
the throwing Samoan.
yeah,
Love that name.
Matt Jones had 21 carries, 85 yards. He was the leading rusher of the XFL in the first day, and Jordan Tiamu had 77 yards. St. Louis went to that game, and the passing was so-so. He had 183 yards with 2 touchdowns. No, he had 1 touchdown. Excuse me. I was thinking about a conversion that he made. But when you look at the St. Louis BattleHawks, they went to this game preparing for an offensive Dallas that was going to be highly explosive. Was not. But what they did is they stuck with their game plan of running the football with multiple guys, including the quarterback, and dink and dive right down the field, not do anything flashy. If the safety came up, they challenged the deep pass, and St. Louis went into Dallas, got the W. They defeated the Renegades 15-9. But honestly, was this a upset win? A lot of people who have been covering the XFL over the last couple of weeks or the last couple of months have said, yeah, this is an upset win. I don't think it's an upset win because when the opposing team that you're playing doesn't have their main star, it's not an upset. You're basically 2 equal teams, and you're basically the favorite because you have your players. They do not. St. Louis goes into Dallas and gets a win in Dallas in front of 17,062. It's the smallest crowd of the weekend, but I do think that the fans in Dallas were not as energetic as a lot of other stadiums this weekend because they knew that their starting quarterback, Philip Nelson, was not going to be Landry Jones style. Philip Nelson deserves the right to be called the master of the dump downs. That guy threw more passes to his running backs out of the backfield than anybody I've seen in my football career.
It's just that I feel like that's putting it nicely. I saw a lot of throws that he just overthrew, just completely missed his receivers and running backs by a mile. Or he was throwing the ball behind them. He looked extremely sloppy to me. But
yes,
he
looked like he was unprepared.
Yes, very much so. But I think that's because they were depending on Landry to be there. And we did talk about that in the last podcast. If Landry is there, then they're the clear favorites in that game. But if he's not, the St. Louis defense is going to eat the backups' lunch. And what did we see? Their lunch was gone. There were no crumbs left. The potato bag was empty. The high C was done and dry. They clearly got outmatched. The only way that Dallas was going to win that game is if their quarterback was able to get the proper play going, and he just couldn't do it against that St. Louis defense. They played excellently.
Oh yeah, St. Louis defense. Even though they weren't playing against Landry Jones. They contained Dallas. They kept Dallas out of the end zone a couple of drives. Dallas did move the ball down the field pretty often. Uh, they had a total of, they had 267 yards of total offense. But one thing that was a key factor in this game was St. Louis's punter. What was it, Marquez King or Marcus King? I forgot his first name, but I know it's King. That man was booting some freaking punts and just, setting up Dallas with some terrible field position. And that's what you need to do to beat so-called league favorites like the Dallas Renegades. They were considered league favorites entering this year. Special teams by St. Louis was incredible. St. Louis did not kill themselves in penalties as bad as the excuse me, I read that wrong. They almost killed themselves with penalty. I thought I said Dallas. My bad. 9 penalties of 78 yards, St. Louis. That almost killed them. But Jordan Tiamo's big run, 40-yard run late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, was basically the dagger of the game. St. Louis knew if they got scored a touchdown there, that Philip Nelson was going to drive down the field and score a touchdown. But when Philip Nelson did have chances to throw the ball deep to receivers, it was 5 yards out of bounds or 5 yards ahead of the receiver, way leading the receiver beyond his reach. But one thing that I did find it intriguing about this game that a lot of people have really not mentioned about Jordan Tiamo, the quarterback for St. Louis, is that his ability to run the ball is a secret weapon of his. Yes, people know he runs the ball, but he needs to run the ball more. And I think if he learns how to keep running with his feet, he keeps plays alive. St. Louis could be not a threat to win the whole thing, but could toy for a postseason berth in the Eastern Conference, especially with Tampa Bay being in existence. They can actually challenge the other two teams in the East. This game right here, in my opinion, even though Tampa Bay was kind of a dud as well. Excuse me. St. Louis and Dallas's game was hyped up to be the game of the week in the XFL, and it was a complete flop. Maybe because St. Louis's strength is their defense, shutting down Dallas's offense with a backup quarterback was maybe the key factor. But this game right here, the end of the week in XFL, was such a blah. Because A, Dallas's quarterback just kept throwing dump-offs. And B, when receivers were wide open, ball wasn't even getting there because the quarterback was throwing it at their feet. Or when they do catch the ball, they fumble the ball, and it's a turnover on downs. Dallas fans, I've seen you on Twitter, seen you on social media, even our XFL Newsroom Discord. Next week is not an elimination game. Don't think that. Yes, you guys are going to LA next week. That's not an elimination game. You got to remember, a team back in 2001's XFL, same type of schedule and format, 10-week season, 2-week playoff. The Chicago Enforcers started the season 0-4 and made the playoffs. So if you start the season 0-2, it's not going to mean that this season's over with. You still got to play Houston twice. You still got to play, basically, you still got to play your whole division.
The Los Angeles Extreme lost their first game as well to the San Francisco Demons. Yes. They lost as well, and what happened? Both those teams that we just described made it to the playoffs. So stop freaking out. Put down your fire extinguishers and your giant bottles of booze. Chill out.
It's only week 1. So the final score in Dallas was 15-9 St. Louis. Jordan Tiamo had a big-time game in that. Dallas looked like they were out of sorts, didn't get a lot of plays done, or their offense honestly couldn't just get going. Yes, it's because Nelson doing Masters of the Dump-Off, but Lance Dunbar wasn't really getting it. Payne wasn't doing it. But it's week 1. You put that behind your back. move on, and you get ready for Sunday afternoon when you go travel to LA, where there'll be a whopping 17 people in the stands, still outdrawing the Chargers. Um, I don't think it's going to be 17. It's going to be more than 17 people in the stands, but
20.
probably, yeah, over under 20.
Oh my
But
God, I feel like a dick right now. I'm so sorry, LA fans. I'm so sorry.
but Dallas fans, calm down. This is not the Cowboys. Honestly, I don't know why I'm telling you to calm down. You should be used to it by now. How many times has the Cowboys done this to you guys? Highly hype all off season. We them boys are going to win the championship, and you guys just don't even show up and you don't even make the playoffs.
Are you sure you're not reading off my mind?
Oh
Considering how
no
much
no
animosity I have for Dallas.
no! I don't hate Dallas fans. You're a Redskin fan, of course. You're a Defenders fan.
Yeah.
Uh, and I see all the tweets from Dallas fans throughout the season, and I've seen today just the Renegades losing their first game of the season. Oh, we're going to be eliminated from the playoffs 2 weeks into the season. Okay, keep that mindset. But next week's game is not a must-win for either team. They're playing LA at LA, but let's calm yourselves, Renegades fans. When you get Landry Jones back, your offense will be different. It'll be completely different. Landry Jones knows that system better than anybody else because he played for 4 years in that system in Oklahoma. So he'll figure out this. You guys will see the offense. You guys will do better. Even though you lost to St. Louis, you're still a better team than LA, in my opinion, because you have the coaching experience on the sideline. Besides from that, first week in the books, very entertaining. If the playoffs started today, I know this is going to be exciting. If the playoffs started today, ladies and gentlemen, DC will be traveling to New York. And hey, Dallas fans, you remember that heart attack I just said that you guys were having? If the playoffs start today, you will be in the playoffs. But unfortunately, you'll be traveling to Houston. And that doesn't look good at this point. But first week in the books, it was good. A little exciting. A couple of games were interesting. Um, Start off with a bang, end it with a dud. That's usually how you want to start off, excited and taper off as the week goes. I understand that, but there was some bad football on Sunday, bad coaching between two teams, and a city that is panicking about not making the playoffs because their starting quarterback wasn't even playing. So it was a chaotic week in the XFL. Week 2 is next week. We will be doing our picks later in the week. But honestly, I'm about to end the show without even asking you what you thought about the game between the Renegades and the BattleHawks. I'm gonna say the
No,
Cowboys.
no, you were pretty much on point. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot more to say there. At the end of the day, it sucks to say it, but Sunday was a bit of a letdown. But again, I said it at the beginning of the show, football is like that. You're always going to have games that are going to be more low scoring. It just
Yep.
depends on matchups, it depends on game plans, depends on the players, depends on who's healthy. It's a variety of factors that lead up to that. And if you suddenly decide, oh, well, Sunday sucked, even though Saturday was good, so, fuck this, I'm out. Dude, you clearly don't understand football. So it is what it is. We know that it's going to get better, especially considering the more that these guys play and the more the league grows and the more these guys get used to the rules and the setups, it's going to get better no matter what, as long as the league, obviously can keep going. And with $500 million plus more, we're looking at a good few years of football guaranteed. But before we do roll out, once again, want to say thank you very much, everybody, for listening to our rambling back and forth on these games. And we hope that you will join us for more. And don't forget to check out 503 Sports if you want some really sweet old school 2001 XFL gear or WFL gear, minor league baseball gear. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they have just besides the XFL. And of course, please go check out xflnewsroom.com. That is our XFL family. There's a lot of other podcasts out there too if you want to check them out as well. And it is majorly grown over the last couple of days. Over the last 48 hours, we went from about 7,000 followers on Twitter to about, I don't know, over 11,000.
Yep.
It's amazing. And you guys have helped us out on our Twitter account because we went from about 400 to about 850 right now. Like, this is crazy. You guys are awesome. We thank you so much for the support. And on my end, I'm ready to call it a night. James, you got anything else to say, my good man?
Well, first week is in the books of the XFL. Second week will be coming up later. We will be dropping this podcast either tomorrow or not tomorrow, on Monday. If you're listening to this right now, it's past Monday, so you're listening. So thank you for listening. We'll be dropping our predictions and week 2 preview either on Thursday or Wednesday of this week. So prepare to get double episodes each week. It's because it's season. We got to do this. If not, we're going to be here for 2 hours, and we don't want to be here for 2 hours. But besides
And neither
that,
do they.
besides from that, enjoy the rest of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, if you're in these cities that have the XFL teams and you haven't gone there, buy some tickets. Go support the league. Spring football's here, and there is a market for it. Now let's go out there and show that we can support this league longer than just 1 week. For everyone here at XFL Newsroom and people, for myself and Carlos here at the XFL Newsroom Unhinged podcast, have a nice night, and talk to you guys later.
Hasta luego, y'all. See you next time.